Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. So in this one we're going to be breaking down 5 players that I think we should be considering for game week 3 onwards, including some heat maps and some general thoughts about each of the players as we move into the 3rd week of the season. So if you are new to the channel as well, please do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell for when new content gets uploaded. I try to create at least 2 to 3 videos per week, and of course if you do also enjoy the content, please consider hitting that like button as well. So without further ado, let's look at the first option that I'm considering making a move for over these next few weeks. And of course, that is Toney. So I think if you're an active member of the community, Brentford attacking fixtures look very, very promising moving forward. I think really because Toney's on penalties and ultimately what he's been showcasing in terms of his numbers so far, he does look like a very, very solid option at now £7.1 million. So hit a price rise last night, moving from 7 to 7.1 and being backed by a total of 9.4% managers now. So over the past 2 game weeks, he has registered 17 points with an XG non-penalty of 0.39 with a slightly lower number in the XA of 0.06. That has, however, meant it's 1 goal and 2 assists for him, including 2 big chances created and 6 chances created across those 2 game weeks. And you can see from the touch heat map, really, generally speaking, from a forward position, he's maybe in a bit of a deeper role than we'd like to see from our forward players. However, I think at £7.1 million, he's probably going to be the best attacking asset for Brentford. And I think Mbeumo's probably very, very close second. So I haven't put Mbeumo on this list, but definitely also one to consider. I did compare their heat maps very, very closely, and it does look like Mbeumo seems to be getting the majority of the touches and play further up the field than Toney. But of course, he is not on penalties unless Toney is not on the pitch. So definitely both of them, I think, are very, very solid options. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are for these 2 strikers. So moving into the second option, I think really there's maybe a little bit of surprise. I didn't necessarily think that from game week 3 onwards I'll be talking about this man here, Pascal Gross. I think Brighton as an outfit are looking absolutely fantastic under Potter now. He's had a few seasons to really start drilling in the system that he wants this team to be playing, and I think that, you know, this man here has benefited from it in the first few weeks. We've already seen his price rise from 5.5 to 5.6 million after that 15-point haul against Manchester United in the first week, only scoring 3 points against Newcastle, but actually I think that was quite unfortunate. He had a few chances cleared off, and in terms of where he was picking up the ball and in terms of the eye test, where he was making his runs and movement is exactly what we want to see from an asset from an FPL perspective. So definitely one to consider. Going into the statistics then, he's managed 18 points across the 2 game weeks, an XG non-penalty of 1.44 so far, and expected assists of 0.63. So very, very solid numbers. Again, it's such a small data set that it's very, very difficult to take these as true values just yet. But ultimately, with the fixture run from an attacking point of view that Brighton have moving forward, he makes a very, very big argument to easily become a Neto or a Bailey replacement if you can find the extra 0.1 or 0.6 million respectively. He has only registered the 5 chances created, so no big chance technically created. But again, I think these fixtures moving forward are pretty much a match made in heaven for this man so far. So one to mention as well is, of course, Trossard from a Brighton attacking asset. I haven't put him on here as he is, of course, 0.9 million more expensive than Pascal Gross. His statistics are a little bit lower in terms of his outputs. I think they're in the kind of 0.3 range for both the XG and the XA. He hasn't registered any type of attacking return yet across the 2 games and also had some limited minutes. So not 100% sure what he will be able to produce for us, but I do see value in really both those type of picks really in terms of what the fixtures hold for Brighton moving forward. So moving into the 3rd pick, again, I don't think there's going to be any surprises here to see this man on the list in Reece James of Chelsea. I think really at the beginning of the season, I really underestimated the output of this guy again. I kind of got a bit cold feet on Chelsea's defensive output, and I think that really what I should have been thinking about is what this man can do from an attacking point of view. We don't necessarily want to own him from that defensive point of view. It doesn't really matter if the clean sheet gets wiped out. That, of course, is a fantastic 4-point bonus. But the way that this man attacks and in terms of where he gets on the pitch, I think it's a no-brainer, really, that at £6 million, he's pretty much a midfielder. If we have a look again at the touch heat map on where he shows up, he's always really in the opposing half as opposed to his own. I think against Spurs, he was, I think, told by Tuchel to pretty much man-mark Son at times. So maybe the heat map, or if you watch the game from an eye test perspective, it may look like he was in the right centre-back position from time to time. But across the 2 game weeks, averagely, this is where he's showing up. And I think really, as I say, I think over 60% of his touches are in the opposing half. So I think from an attacking threat and attacking perspective, this man looks like he's got all of the right things going for him, registering a 0.55 xG and a 0.48 expected assist. One big chance created for Kai Havertz in that Spurs match. Very, very unfortunate not to register an assist there. If Havertz was able to convert that, it would have been a phenomenal return. And of course, 4 chances created as well across the 2 games. So finding himself in all sorts of pockets of space and area. I think really this guy's only going to get fitter. He didn't really look himself in game week 1, but I think moving forward, he's definitely one that's hard to ignore. So moving into the 4th pick. Again, I don't think this is going to be any surprises really in terms of individual. It is Gabriel Martinelli of Arsenal. I think realistically, going up 2 rises in terms of prices already from 6 to 6.2 million just shows how many managers are backing him. And I think really in terms of the eye test and his statistics, it does back it up really. I think I did make the mistake, and I definitely take the L on the decision of going Bukayo Saka over Martinelli. Again, though, could be just suffering from a little bit of variance. I still hold faith in Saka's statistics and output. They're actually not too far off from Martinelli's overall. His XG is slightly lower, but his XA is very, very similar. So I think really for me, he's definitely a hold. I wouldn't necessarily back the sideways move of a Saka to Martinelli like I know some managers have considered. Personally, I do see that as a wasted transfer. I would much kind of prefer, if you could, to move Neto or Bailey to this man as well and try and find that money from a different area across the pitch. So again, going deeper into the statistics, he scored 16 points across the 2 games with a 0.43 xG and a 0.36 XA, resulting in 2 goals across the 2 games, 1 in each one, with 1 big chance created and 5 chances created. So having a look at his heat map, really, you can see he doesn't really do much defensive work. I think Arteta really does want him further up the pitch. I did see in the Crystal Palace game that he was playing and found himself in the positions of a false 9 at times. So I think ultimately he does produce a very, very high chance of attacking threat or output for us. So definitely someone to consider. And that's not even considering he's on a lot of set pieces as well for Arsenal. And finally, last but not least, maybe one person that won't necessarily come into the thinking from this week onwards, but I have put him in here just because I don't think he's an impossible option really at this week. I think ultimately though, when you look at the fixture against Chelsea, it's arguable that really you should be thinking maybe from game week 4 or 5 onwards to bring him in. I can definitely see a potential to kind of game week blank from him, potentially 2 pointers in the Chelsea and the Brighton game, both teams looking almost really good defensively, and maybe causing this man a bit more trouble than he's faced so far. But needless to say, he has registered 22 points in those 2 games so far, which is a phenomenal return. He's already risen in value by 0.1 to that 6.1 mark, and he's backed by 8.3% of managers. So in the XG, he's managed the same numbers as Pascal Gross at 1.44 with a slightly lower XA value of 0.26, but it has resulted in 3 goals for this man. So I think ultimately the heat map on the side there's worth noting as well isn't actually the touch heat map. For some reason, Fantasy Football Scout wasn't loading the Leeds players heat maps. So this is the passes received heat map. It's the best kind of, I guess, visual that I could represent to you guys that would give you some idea of where he seems to be cropping up in the pitch in terms of his touches and where he's receiving the passes. So it's not a true statement of to where he finds himself on the pitch. But if we have a look at where he finds himself in the box and where he seems to be receiving passes, there's 7 light blue dots in that area where these are the areas that you want to see our FPL assets in, as they probably result in some kind of shot, an attempt, possibly even, an attempt that results into an assist. So I think from a heat map perspective and his statistics so far, he does look like a really solid option. My personal view though is potentially just to wait one more week if you can. If you really do want to jump on him and you think that he could still cause Chelsea trouble, then I still think he is a great choice. But ultimately, that's what I'll caveat this choice with. So all in all, there's the 5 options, guys. I really hope you find all of the content useful in this video. If you did, then please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And also, let me know in the comments what you thought of the general output of the video. What was the format good? Do you like the kind of breakdown of players that we should just be considering bringing in? Would you like to see a combination of both in and out in terms of transfers? Let me know your thoughts, guys. And again, I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next video.